The room held 300 people.
Tonight,
Press,
the world is watching.
partners, investors.
Welcome to the Voss
The kind of
Grand.
crowd that has seen everything and applauds nothing it isn't paid to applaud. And somewhere in the back, because every good story has someone in the back, a journalist had his phone open. He was already typing. The man at the podium was not what any of them expected. He was wearing a suit that almost fit. He had driven from San Antonio, because the flights were too expensive. His 11-year-old daughter was in the third row. His late wife's grandmother was next to her, eating a hard candy very slowly and watching the powerful men at the panel table the way you watch something you have already decided you don't trust. Up on the panel, the man everyone in this room answered to, Dominic Voss, was looking at his phone. Because Dominic Voss had already decided this was over. He had, in fact, bet $1 million on it. This is that story. Start to finish. No shortcuts. It starts, the way the most important stories always start. With a promise made to someone who can no longer hear it. Casa Isabel sits on a quiet street in San Antonio's King William neighborhood. 22 rooms. A courtyard with a fountain. A breakfast room that seats 32 and, on a good morning, smells of pan dulce and dark roast coffee. Isabel Herrera Morales opened it 6 years ago. She was 30 years old, had a head full of ideas and a $340,000 loan she'd spent 3 years negotiating. She had also, and this would become important, a family story she'd never fully told her husband. But we'll get to that. Rafael Morales had been a hospitality consultant. A good one. He had spent his 20s evaluating hotels in 9 countries for an international advisory firm. He spoke English, basic Portuguese, and, when he met Isabel at a conference in Austin at age 31, the exact 30 words of Spanish he needed to ask her if she wanted coffee. She found this both endearing and insufficient. He spent the next 7 years fixing the insufficiency. Sofia Morales was 11 years old and had opinions about everything. She had opinions about her father's presentation slides, specifically the font, which she said looked like a dentist's appointment. She had opinions about Las Vegas, which she had researched extensively on her school laptop and described to Rafael as a place where math goes to die. She was also, though she had not told her father this, the one who had found the Voss pitch competition listing online, printed it out, and left it on Rafael's desk 6 months ago with a post-it note that read, Poppy. This is it. You sure you want to come? It's 4 days of business stuff, Mija. I want to see the place that's going to give Casa Isabel the money. It's not guaranteed. Poppy. I put the post-it note on your desk 4 months ago. I have been patient. Abuela Carmen, from the doorway, said something in Spanish. Mexico, ese niño va a ser presidente algún día. That child is going to be president someday. Rafael loaded the car. 12 hours later, they were in Las Vegas. Dominic Voss had built something his father never imagined. Reginald Voss, who started with a single casino in downtown Las Vegas in 1982, had been a gambler in the truest sense. Instinct-driven. Appetite-forward. He had built the first Voss property the way you build something when you have nothing to lose. Dominic had built the empire the way you build something when you have everything to protect. With systems. With logic. With the consistent removal of anything that introduced unnecessary variables. He had been told many times that this made him brilliant. He had been told, far fewer times, that this also made him lonely. He did not consider loneliness a variable worth addressing. He had reviewed the 8 finalists the night before. 7 were what he expected, well capitalized, professionally presented, algorithmically competitive. The 8th was a 22-room boutique in San Antonio run by a widower with a name he recognized. Not the man's name. The hotel's name. He had closed the folder. Poured another espresso. Opened his 6 a.m. call schedule. He would examine the feeling later. He did not examine it later. Morales is in room 6. I've reviewed the deck. It's serviceable. Sentimental. He'll be gone by afternoon. The hotel name. Casa Isabel. Pull whatever's in the archive on that. On the San Antonio property? There's nothing relevant in. Pull it anyway. Preston pulled it. And then he did something he had been doing for 18 years whenever an inconvenient file surfaced. He decided not to volunteer what he found. The Voss Hospitality Open Pitch competition was, on paper, a talent search. In practice, it was something closer to an audition for a role that had already been half-cast. Dominic's team had 3 likely winners in mind before the first presenter reached the podium. The remaining 5 were what Preston privately called the color of the program, necessary for the event to look like a genuine competition. Rafael Morales was not in the top 3. He was in the audience, though, watching the first 5 presentations with the specific attention of a former consultant. Taking notes. Real notes, on actual paper. Sofia sat beside him writing what appeared to be a story in a small notebook. Abuela Carmen sat on his other side, having consumed 2 glasses of water, 1 bread roll, and a significant portion of her opinion of the proceedings. El hombre de la izquierda no cree en lo que está diciendo. The man on the left doesn't believe what he's saying. Rafael, who had learned not to argue with Abuela Carmen's assessments of people, wrote it down. Cliff Barton of Barton Resorts Miami presented for 18 minutes. He had brought 4 people to help him present. He had a produced video, a branded deck, and a property portfolio that generated $14 million annually. He received warm, professional applause. Then the moderator said. Finalist number 6. Rafael Morales. Casa Isabel, San Antonio. The break before Rafael's session was 12 minutes. Dominic used 8 of them to review a property acquisition proposal from his Dubai team. In the remaining 4, something happened that would end up in a national hospitality trade article, 2 Twitter threads, and 1 very uncomfortable board meeting. The San Antonio entry. 22 rooms. 1 guy. I give him 12 minutes before the panel stops taking notes. He'll be polite. He'll be earnest. He'll be gone. I mean, what's the bet? 20 that he doesn't make round 2. Dominic Voss did not make small bets. It was a personal policy. $1 million says he doesn't survive the morning session. Light laughter from the table. Preston's smile tightened by approximately 2%. Dan Cho, 2 rows back, looked up from his phone and started typing. And Marisol Vega, standing at the side of the room near the international delegation, looked at Dominic Voss the way she looked at him whenever she was recalibrating how much trouble was coming. He began in English. And he was good. Not dazzling. Not choreographed. Good in the way that things built from actual experience are good, with weight, with specificity, with the kind of detail you can only have if you've actually been inside the thing you're describing. Casa Isabel is 22 rooms. We turn away guests every weekend from April to October. We have a 94.3% 5-star review rate on every major platform. We have hosted 3 weddings in our courtyard this summer, all repeat referrals. We are not the biggest property in this competition. We are the only property in this competition where the owner knows every guest's name by checkout. Quiet attention from the room. Respectful. Not electric. Dominic was back on his phone. Then Rafael clicked to his 3rd slide. And he paused. He looked at the international section, the Mexican, Spanish, and Latin American partners seated in the left block. They had been professionally attentive all morning. Politely remote. Rafael had spent 4 months preparing this presentation. He had spent the last 2 years preparing for this moment without knowing it was coming. He began to speak in Spanish. Mexico, buenos días. Quiero hablar con ustedes directamente, si me permiten. Good morning. I'd like to speak with you directly, if you'll allow me. The international section went still. Mexico, Casa Isabel no es solo un hotel. Es una promesa. Una promesa que lo hice mi esposa cuando ya no podía levantarse de la cama. Casa Isabel is not just a hotel. It is a promise. A promise I made to my wife when she could no longer get out of bed. Dominic Voss looked up from his phone. Mexico, aprendí este idioma por ella. Palabra por palabra, durante 2 años, porque ella es Mauricia que su historia fuera contada en su propio idioma. I learned this language for her. Word by word, for 2 years, because she deserved to have her story told in her own language. Mexico, el mercado latinoamericano no necesita ser traducido. Necesita ser escuchado. Y Casa Isabel lo escucha. The Latin American market does not need to be translated. It needs to be heard. And Casa Isabel hears it. Marisol Vega, standing at the side of the room, felt something move through her that she would later describe as recognition. She began to applaud. The international section joined her within 4 seconds. Then the back rose. Then, in the specific, reluctant, unstoppable way that genuine things move through rooms, the rest. Casa Isabel is 22 rooms. But the people who stay there, the international visitors, the families, the couples celebrating something that matters, they don't remember the room count. They remember being understood. That is the product we're selling. And I believe it's the product that fits what the Voss brand is building next. He thanked the panel. He walked back to his seat. Sofia grabbed his hand the moment he sat down. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Marisol found him in the corridor during the afternoon break. She did not ask permission to approach him. She never did. It was one of 2 things about her he genuinely respected. You made a bet. A comment. Dan Cho was sitting 2 rows behind you. A pause. Dominic's face did not move. What he did up there, the Spanish. You should know what that cost him. He prepared a bilingual presentation. That's a strategy. His wife died 14 months ago. He learned Spanish during her illness. Word by word, for 2 years. He wasn't pitching to a market demographic up there. He was keeping a promise. In public. In front of 300 strangers. Dominic said nothing. I know you're going to do what you're going to do. I'm just telling you what I heard. Because you should know what you're dismissing before you dismiss it. She started to leave. Then, in the specific way that the most important sentences in a person's life arrive, sideways, unrehearsed, she stopped. His wife's family name was Herrera. Isabel Herrera Morales. From San Antonio. Dominic's glass stopped moving. He had been raising it to drink. It simply stopped. Herrera. Yes. From San Antonio. I'm told the original family hotel was called Casa Isabel. Named after their youngest daughter. About 12 years old at the time. Preston's office line went to voicemail. His cell went to voicemail after 4 rings, meaning he heard it, waited, declined. Dominic had not been declined a call in 11 years. He pulled the archive files himself. The Herrera-Voss partnership agreement was dated August 12, 1987. It was a 20-year partnership. The Herrera family's small but well-reviewed San Antonio property would operate under a Voss co-branding arrangement, receiving referrals, infrastructure support, and marketing inclusion in exchange for a revenue share. It had been Reginald Voss's idea, a southwest corridor strategy, boutique properties feeding into the larger casino hotel network. It was a good idea. It had worked. For 19 years. The termination notice was dated October 14, 2006. 1 month after Reginald Voss died. Dominic had been 26 years old. He had signed 47 documents that week, estate, legal, operational. He had trusted Preston to ensure he understood what he was signing. He had not read the Herrera termination individually. He had trusted. Preston's advisory memo, the one recommending termination, was 1 page. It described the Herrera property as underscaled, sentiment-dependent, and structurally misaligned with the post-Reginald Voss strategic direction. It described the family as emotionally invested in a way that complicates clean contract resolution. And then, the line that stopped Dominic's breathing for approximately 4 seconds. The Herrera daughter, approximately age 12, has been told the hotel bears her name. This personal attachment on the part of a minor should not be considered a legal encumbrance to termination. Dominic read that sentence 3 times. He thought about a 12-year-old girl being told her name was coming off a building. He thought about what that girl had done with that information. She had grown up. She had built another hotel. She had called it the same name, because it was still her name, still her story, regardless of what anyone decided about contracts. She had gotten sick. She had died. And her husband had driven 12 hours to fight for it. He examined what he had signed. Preston was waiting for the lift when Dominic found him. He had his jacket on. His bag was in his hand. The Herrera file. 2006. 4 seconds of silence. 4 seconds was a very long time for Preston Crane. Dominic. That was 18 years ago. Your father had just died, you were. You told me it was a routine estate simplification. It was. From a legal standpoint it was entirely. You wrote a memo describing a 12-year-old child. By name. And you noted her attachment to the property as something to be managed around. Preston's jaw tightened. I was protecting the estate. That's what you pay me to. You protected a contract. You didn't tell me there was a family. You didn't tell me there was a child whose name was on the building. You told me it was an underperforming asset. Silence. That girl is dead. She died 14 months ago. Her husband is downstairs. He drove here from San Antonio in a borrowed suit to save the hotel she named after herself because you told me 18 years ago that her attachment was not a legal encumbrance. Preston said nothing. The lift arrived. Dominic did not take it. Dominic Voss had a driver, a security team, and approximately 14 ways to handle this that did not involve showing up at a man's hotel room at 11:40 p.m. He used none of them. He knocked on the door of room 214 himself. They looked at each other for a moment. I owe you an explanation. And I'm aware I'm 11 years late, and at the wrong address, and that none of this is your problem to manage. But I need you to know. Rafael stepped back from the doorway. He did not invite Dominic in, exactly. He simply made room. Which is a different thing. Dominic told him everything. The 1987 partnership. The 2006 termination. Preston's memo. The 12-year-old girl and the sentence that described her attachment as not a legal encumbrance. He did not soften it. He did not, at any point, make it about himself. He said, I was 26. I trusted the wrong man. I signed without reading. None of those things change what it cost your wife's family. Rafael listened. He looked at his hands a few times. When Dominic finished, the room was very quiet. The TV was on mute now. Abuela Carmen had reached for the remote at some point during the telling. No one had noticed when. Mexico, los errores que no podemos dishacer solo nos queda cargarlos con honestidad. The mistakes we cannot undo, we can only carry them honestly. A long silence. Is that from something? My wife said it. Near the end. She was talking about something else entirely. But I've been carrying it anyway. Dominic looked at the floor. He said, quietly. I can't give you back what was taken. I can't give Isabel back what was taken. I know that. I know you know that. Another silence. Different from the first. The contract decision is the panel's. I won't interfere with it. But there's something I can do separately. Through a different channel. If you'd let me. Rafael looked at him for a long time. Then he looked at Abuela Carmen. Abuela Carmen, who had been listening to this entire conversation in Spanish and English with the patience of someone who has been waiting a very long time for something like this moment, said exactly one thing. Mexico, deja que lo haga. Let him do it. The panel announced the winner the following morning at 9 o'clock. Rafael Morales. Casa Isabel, San Antonio. The room applauded with genuine warmth, the kind that happens when the right thing and the expected thing, for once, align. Sofia grabbed her father's hand. Then she grabbed Abuela Carmen's. Abuela Carmen, who had been holding it together across 4 days in Las Vegas with remarkable discipline, cried for approximately 30 seconds into her handkerchief and then composed herself and stood up straight. 3 days later, a $1 million transfer arrived in Casa Isabel's renovation account. The sender was listed as a private charitable foundation with a name that meant nothing to anyone at first. Sofia, who looked up everything, found it in 40 minutes. She told Abuela Carmen. Abuela Carmen thought about this for a long time. Then she called the Voss Grand's main line and asked to be connected to Mr. Dominic Voss's office. She left a voicemail. In Spanish. Marisol was asked to translate it. She listened once all the way through. Then she sat very still at her desk for 40 seconds. Then she sent Dominic a 3-word text message. The message said, "You should hear this. Hanging question, do not resolve." What did Abuela Carmen say in the voicemail? Was it a thank you? A warning? A blessing? Was it something about Isabel, something she never told Rafael because some things are a grandmother's to carry? Was it an invitation? And Dominic Voss, who is now on lesson 3 of a Spanish language app at 1:30 a.m., why is he learning? Is it guilt? Is it something else? We see his hand on that table. Palm up. Open. That is not the hand of a man who has already decided. That is the hand of a man who is, for the first time in a very long time, waiting to find out. If you are still thinking about that voicemail, if you are still thinking about the Spanish in that ballroom, and the hand open on the table, and a girl who named 2 hotels after herself because nobody gets to take your name, then you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. Every week, we bring you a story that doesn't let you go. A story about a real choice, a real cost, and a moment where someone decides who they are. We don't do tidy endings here. We do true ones. Subscribe, right now. Hit the button. Hit the bell beside it. New story every week and you will not want to miss the next one. Comment, what did Abuela Carmen say? Leave your version in the comments. The best answer gets pinned. We read every single one. Rewatch, go back to the Spanish scene. Watch Rafael's face. Watch Dominic's hands. Watch Sofia stop writing. There is something in that room you missed the first time. There always is. Share, if you know someone who's been dismissed, underestimated, or told their attachment to something was not a legal encumbrance, send this to them. They'll understand why.